How's it going, y'all? Rowdy Rouse back with another video. I wasn't planning on doing a worst of 2024 that isn't Marvel Legends, but you know, the more I sat and thought about it, there were some figures that I reviewed this year that I was just like, you could have done better. You could have done a lot better. Some of them, they're like the lower on the list. I'll say this later too, probably. Lower on the list does not mean that they're terrible, awful, but the higher we go, the worse the offender. So like, say for instance, I'm doing 8 figures. So 8 is, there's some problems, but it's not a bad figure. It's just I would have liked more, or there's some issues that I saw, and then, you know, you go up as it goes along. So yeah, with that being said, let's take a look at my most disappointing or worst figures of 2024. Yeah, so like I said in the intro, we're doing a top 8 this year, only because I got so many Marvel Legends, and we already did my top 5 worst Marvel Legends. So we have what's left, and this is not to say that all these figures are terrible or awful releases. It's just to say that some expectations weren't met, or there were better releases of this figure in the same year or something along those lines. And there's just little things that bothered me about some of them, while other ones are very glaring. And the higher up the list we go, the bigger the issues will be with the figures, or say distribution of, or how figures are gotten or handled, and how communication is handled. So, you know, let's get into it. Let's figure out who is going to be my number 8. So with the way that this works, the lower on the list, the better it is. So our SH Figuarts Chainsaw Man is the best of the worst this year. There's some slight issues that I have with him. For instance, these split hands that they have are very, very difficult. There's a peg on one side and the other one has a hole, and you have to get them to connect together. So for instance, if you want him to be different gesturing, it doesn't always fit as well. Like, he's got half a fist and half an open hand there, as well as there. So they don't always fit together and stay together. And then that issue also applies to his tie and to his lower jaw, because they're just kind of pegged in there. And if you knock them over or bump them, or say for instance a cat's tail comes over and grazes where they're sitting and he falls over, every single one of those pieces, the tie, the face, and the hand, is going to come off. So it's a cool release. He's articulated really well. It shows a lot of potential into what SH Figuarts can do as far as articulation, but there are some questionable things when it comes to the design choice and how these accessories and different looks are applied. So I would hope that they take that problems they had with this figure and, you know, go forward from there and improve. So number 8 is Chainsaw Man from SH Figuarts. Number 7 is our Operation Monster Force Dracula, not because he's a bad figure, but because comparatively to the rest of the figures in the line, he comes with bare bones as far as accessories and all that stuff. He comes with a sword and some alternate hands, and I don't even think does he come with an alternate head? I don't remember. But Marvel Legends Dracula kind of blew everyone out of the water this year as far as Dracula releases go. So like I said, he's not a bad figure. Operation Monster Force is really cool. I am getting that Kilowog werewolf at some point. It's in my pile of loot. So there are some figures I will be getting here and there from this line. Dracula is not a bad figure. It's just compared to the other figures in that wave 1, he's kind of lackluster, especially when it comes to the sculpt and accessories, because those military commandos, they have all the bells and whistles that you can attach, and Dracula just has some hands and a sword. So yeah, number 7 on our number 7 on our top 10 worst, which doesn't mean that they're all bad, is Dracula from Operation Monster Force, which is a fantastic line, and one of the figures from the line was even in my top 10. The number 6 and 5 spot go to Spin Masters Joel and Ellie. It was the last release of the year from a mostly really good line of figures. I didn't get the Ghost of Tsushima because I haven't played that game, so I don't know how that figure was, but the Kratos and Atreus and Aloy were all pretty good, and the thing that really holds these figures back is their ugly torso articulation. Joel has this really weird cut that doesn't even do anything. They may as well have not given him any torso articulation at all. And then Ellie is in the opposite direction with way too much torso articulation that just looks ugly. That top cut is horrible, and she's got that ab crunch that also just breaks up them from looking like normal human beings, which is kind of counterproductive to the point of these figures, which is supposed to be like normal humans. But yeah, and I'm not saying these are horrible figures either. Like, they're disappointments to me as far as that line goes, because we had so many good releases for our first year from a line like that. For the purpose of this video and for the purpose of the Spin Masters Shapes collection line, they were the disappointment of the bunch. So they take the number 6 and 5 spots in my worst of 2024 list. Sorry, Joel and Ellie. Ooh, it's gonna really suck for Joel in The Last of Us Season 2. Our number 4 and 3 spot go to Rick and Morty. You can swap around whichever one you want, but Morty is the worst figure. So actually, Rick is number 4 and Morty is number 3. And I don't have any other Beast Kingdom figures. And based on these figures, yeah, I'm glad to have a Rick and Morty that are like way out of scale with everything as the first point. But the articulation it's there, but the joints are very loose and the heads are very heavy. Morty doesn't even want to stand, and he also doesn't even like attach to his stand at the feet. He just kind of stands on it, and you have to hope he doesn't fall over. So that's why I have him sitting there, because he's just sitting there on my shelf so he doesn't take another nosedive. And then Rick is barely holding on to his accessories. They're kind of just sitting there. If you breathe on them wrong, they'll fall out of his hands. So, you know, for $50 figures a piece, you would hope that the QC would be slightly better and there would be a lot less issues with them, especially for your first experience with the company. And I understand that the animation style doesn't really lend itself to super articulated figures without having some issues. But that being said, I'm sure like SH Figuarts or MothX could have done a great job and kept the style intact while also making sure that they don't just take plunges off your shelves. Maybe thickened them up a little bit, especially at the joints. Who knows? It's neither here nor there. I don't know if we'll get any more Rick and Morty figures. That's why I got these, and I'm glad that I have them on my shelf. But as far as them being on my shelf, they just kind of sit there, and that's really all they're gonna do because I'm afraid to move them. Like, his head will fall off. It's barely on because the neck peg doesn't really sit right. And then Morty has the opposite problem where I can't really swap the heads because the neck peg will stay in the head and it is so hard to come out of the neck. So it's just like they have opposite problems when they should have the same problems, and those problems shouldn't really be there. So number 4 and number 3 are Rick and Morty from Beast Kingdom. Our number 2 spot goes to the Premium DNA Earthworm Jim, and it's not because it's a quote-unquote bad figure or because they were sold the bad QC issues. It's simply because I have this figure that was supposed to be Premium DNA's figure, and allegedly this is what they say. The QC was very bad and they didn't pay for any of the product that they had, and they were waiting for a restock. They were waiting for the factory to remake them. And allegedly what the factory did was, hey, we're not gonna get our money, so we're gonna sell these on AliExpress. So you could get these Earthworm Jim figures for like $10, $15, $20, depending on which one it was. Some of the other ones are a little bit harder to get, but they are Premium DNA's Earthworm Jim figures. Now, people are saying there's a bunch of quality issues. Mine, the only thing that I had is, and this is so stupid because I didn't know what it was for months and months, is he has a holster and that fell off on mine. It broke off. I don't know where it went. And the dumbest thing is was seeing it for months and months and I didn't know what it was. And when I was looking up, you know, to make sure he came out this year when people were getting him, I was like, oh, he has a holster there. And I was like, that's that thing. And now I don't know where it is. I can't find it. So that's another thing that sucks. That broke off. But the fact is, like, if this was a bad figure that Premium DNA rejected, they still should have paid for these and say, for instance, had these for extra parts if other stuff was bad and they had their replacement parts, and made sure that their customers got these figures. But instead what happened is people like me who were like, I wonder what the deal is with this. I'm not saying this is a good or bad thing to do. We went on AliExpress and got the Earthworm Jim figure from there and did our reviews on it. And is that standard to the quality of Premium DNA? I don't know. What I do know is that Premium DNA used to be a company called Megalopolis, and they were a toy store, and they would fulfill orders for a long time. And then it got to a point where orders weren't being fulfilled. They had a huge sale. I remember like in Christmas of 2020, 2021, something like that. I think it was in 2020. They had a big sale, and they were like, this is all in warehouse, it's damaged box, but it's all here. And, you know, I had ordered like 7, 8, 9, 10 things. And I remember getting one out of those thick couple things in like 2 or 3 months. And then I emailed them. I was like, hey, you know, you haven't sent anything else. I would appreciate it if you don't have it or something is going on, you just cancel my order. And fortunately for me, they did cancel it. Other people were not as lucky. They had to do chargebacks and all that stuff on things they'd ordered. But Megalopolis kind of disappeared and turned into Premium DNA Toys. And they made a couple things. They made like Mad Balls and they made Battletoads, and those all went off without a hitch, surprisingly. But to this day, there's still no response from anyone about the Earthworm Jim figures. So number 2 is the Premium DNA Earthworm Jim. And our number 1 spot goes to the McFarlane DC Multiverse Dick Grayson Batman. What a letdown this figure was. I had not purchased any McFarlane stuff for about 2 years, a year and a half, something like that, because I was just so done with his bullcrap. No improvements in the line. You know, just giant diapers, weird proportions, bad scaling all around, stuff that hasn't been fixed. But I was like, hey, this Dick Bats looks pretty cool. He's got a wired cape. Maybe they've done some improvements. No, I pulled him out of the box and his arm came off and I had to put his arm back on. The wired cape is nice, but you put makeup on a pig, lipstick on a pig, I think that's how the saying goes, or you polish a turd, it's still a turd. And the DC McFarlane Multiverse line is a turd. This is an example of the entire line. It's not just this figure. Like I was like, oh, this Batman's cool. Maybe if it's good, I'll get that Page Puncher's Robin that goes with him from the comic cover, just to have that, you know, iconic Batman and Robin with Dick Grayson and Damian Wayne on my shelf somewhere. And needless to say, after I got this figure, I canceled that pre-order, and I actually just sold like a majority of my McFarlane stuff on eBay. There's still another lot up, so you can check my eBay. I think it's linked somewhere if you want some of that stuff. But I'm just done with McFarlane toys. I'm done with him calling 6-inch statues posed figures with really bad hand-painted jobs. I'm not saying hand painting is bad, but when you have the ability and technology to do photo printing and save people the time and labor to do that hand painted work, maybe you should just invest a couple dollars that it would take in production to start doing photo printing and all that stuff. Maybe you should invest a couple dollars in figuring out how they do pinless engineering so you can tighten up these joints and get rid of these. These are the biggest pins I've ever seen on a figure. Those giant pins. Maybe you can figure out how to do a crotch piece so you don't need a giant diaper for a torso articulation. I don't see many other lines doing that. I'm looking at my G.I. Joe Classified Cobra Commander and he's got an overlay, but it doesn't look like a diaper. It looks like pants. So there's a lot wrong with the DC McFarlane Multiverse line. I could go on and on all day, but this is really about this figure. So as far as Batman goes, why is this Dick Grayson Batman taller than most of my Bruce Wayne Batmans? Why is Batman taller and bulkier than most of the Supermans that we have, other than that Hush Superman body that he reuses over and over? It's just a bad line. I really hope that he loses the license at some point. I really hope that companies stop giving him their money to make 6-inch quote-unquote posed figures. They're fucking statues. I'm sorry for my language, but they're statues. They're nothing more than badly painted statues, and those 1/10 Marvel ones are also badly painted statues. And then he does the chase thing, which no one does anymore. It just frustrates people, especially when places get a bunch of the chase and no one wants that, so they keep sending it back and they keep getting another chase. It's just like, you're making toy collecting a lot harder than it needs to be. Not to mention the whole Wonder Woman debacle still hasn't been re-released, still like $50 release when she came out, just because Todd hates women. Apparently he hates female collectors, he hates female action figures. He probably loves his wife and the fact that, you know, it's his wife, but allegedly he thinks that, well, this isn't alleged, he said this, you know, female action figures turn little boys into serial killers. So I can only imagine what he thinks a real woman does when they interact with someone in real life. God forbid. I don't know. It's just, I really don't like Todd McFarlane. I don't like his toys. I don't like the way that he runs his company. And I'd say, even though Hasbro is a big giant corporation, at least the Marvel Legends team cares about their releases. Todd does not give a crap. He just cares about the next paycheck from Warner Brothers. So with that, I say, fuck you, Todd McFarlane, and your DC Multiverse line. Fuck this DC Multiverse Robin. It's the worst figure I got this year. And you know I'm generally pretty positive. I don't try to like harp, other than like, I would say valid criticisms. So this figure is just not good. And yeah, that is my top 8 worst figures of 2024. So with all that being said, y'all, that's my top 8 most disappointing or worst figures of 2024. If you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments. Hit like either way, or if you dislike it, hit dislike. It really doesn't matter. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. What else? Check the Patreon. I need to upload some stuff on there. There's a lot of videos that are scheduled on my YouTube that aren't on the Patreon yet. I need to get on that. Check the giveaways. We're almost to 3K. When we hit 3.5, we're giving away that retro card Venom. So if you're not already signed up for that, check those videos, see how to sign up, do that. Keep your head up, stay brave. I love you. Hopefully 2025 will bring some really great releases. I will see you next time, and bye-bye.